So I spoke about Mama Pula on the last episode, and on this episode I would like to keep the theme of the pool because there was a very good gentleman, wonderful friend of mine, and a great Calibishie person called Mr. Widley. And Mr. Widley now had fowls, lots of them. He had some roosters, and so one day he was invited for lunch, and he was served wonderful food. And at that particular dinner, he was served with cock meat, rooster, Vian pool. So Whitley enjoyed the meal so much, man. He complimented the cook, man. He said, "You guys did a splendid job." So after the courtesies and cordialities and the dining, somebody told Whitley that it is his fowl they actually took and killed to prepare. Whitley said, "Chupul." And that's why he was actually called Chupul, because we knew him as Mr. Whitley, Chupul. And that's the story. Now, I cannot say who had slaughtered the meat, but in keeping with my storyline, it was not stolen. It was actually taken and prepared, and the man who owned it feasted on the meat. And he was actually told the truth, that I actually took it and I cook it and we ate it. So Whitley say, Chupul. Alright? Back then we didn't steal, we just took. We helped ourselves. In fact, people shared. So if I stole your stuff, I prepare it, but you eat from it. And the cycle continued. My grandfather, Mr. Nibs, as I said, Ado would call him Mr. Nibbo. And we knew him as Mr. Nibbo too, or we also knew him as Man, shortened form of Man Ye Meat. So everybody knew Daddy as Man. And Daddy had some people working for him on his holdings, taking care of his land and so on. I wouldn't say what category of people they were, because they were not traditionally Calibishie people. They lived a bit higher up towards the east of the island. And back then people had those people, come and assist with farming. They're very good at farming, work very hard. So Daddy had a dashing that was in bloom. When the dashing is doing well, it is blue. Bananas too, When bananas was in swing in the 80s, and you look at a field like Delis, Koch, and people like that, Cayenne and them, Charles Davis and them, Edmond and them, you would just see blue. So the healthiest plot of bananas would be looking blue in your eyes. That's how you saw it. So you'd hear the term Gaston the fig blue. And again, I'm not too sure. I guess bananas look green now because they're not as healthy as they would be in those days. But anyway, my grandfather had his plantation, and you could see which one was more blue at the time. That was when you knew a plantation was very healthy. So my grandfather had his people working for him, and my grandfather planted dashings, tanias. He had coconuts all over the place, yams, grapefruits, pears, avocado, stuff like that. So the people who were working for him decided to harvest his dashing. But here's the trick. They did not dig the dashing to take it out, They make a little indentation by the root of the dashing, and they cut the dashing from the surface of the soil, and they pull the dashing out from under the soil, cover the dashing back, put a little grass over it. So the dashing continues doing this little thing for a few more days, because the dashing can continue growing without a dashing below. So the man ripped the entire dashing plot. Well, not the entire, but the majority of it. So Daddy Nibs now one day he decided to harvest a couple of dashing. So Daddy was a very strong fella. He used to hold them together, hold this shook together, shake this dashing, and just pull it. So when Daddy braced himself and he shook the thing and he pulled the dashing, he fell flat on his backside. And when he watched, he realized that the dashing was cut from under the surface. He said, "But who do that now, boy? Boy, Man Ye Meat." That means, boy, things happen to people, boy. Man Ye Meat. For people who know him as Man Ye Meat, that's the story. Because of the people who were working with him, who harvested his dashing, he didn't know, and he realized that was a clever trick. Now I'm going to tell you about me using that trick on an agricultural plot at St. Andrews. Because you could do it to my grandfather, I could do it too. But it wasn't me alone. Eddie Joseph was involved with that plot. I'll tell you about that hopefully on the next episode here of Calibishie Chronicle.